Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I now have the pleasure to welcome to the stage our eminent guest of honor, Shri S. Senthilnathan, Director EP Services, Minister of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Dr. Abhay Sinha, DG SEPC. Mr. Amit Sharma, Managing Director, Tata Consulting Engineers Limited and CGC Member and Design and Engineering Consulting Services Sector Head SEPC. Professor Abhijit Shirodkar, Council of Architecture. Dr. Ajay Pradhan, President CEAI. Mr. Chakresh Jain, Global CCO, WinZero. Mr. Bhaskar Neogi, Managing Director, SABS Architects and Engineers Private Limited. Our guest of honor, Shri S. Senthilnathan, Director EP Services, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Dr. Abhay Sinha, DG SEPC. Mr. Amit Sharma, Managing Director, Tata Consulting Engineers Limited and CGC Member in Design and Engineering Consulting Services Sector Head, SEPC. Professor Abhijit Shirodkar, Council of Architecture. Dr. Ajay Pradhan, President CEAI. Mr. Chakresh Jain, Global CCO, WinZero. Mr. Bhaskar Neogi, Managing Director, SABS Architects and Engineers Private Limited, leading personalities, esteemed scholars, esteemed delegates. Welcome to our special conclave on construction and design engineering, consultancy, engineering architecture, and environmental services on exploring business opportunities abroad. The services sector is one of the fastest growing sectors of the Indian economy, where is a nodal organization for Services Export Promotion. Services Export Promotion Council as an apex body has been set up by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. We serve India's service sectors through 4 major activities: trade intelligence, export development, export promotion, investment, and enabling business opportunities. We are pleased to inform you that SEPC, in association with Consulting Engineers Association of India and Council of Architecture, is organizing this one-day Engineering, Architecture, and Environmental Services Conclave, focusing on exploring business opportunities abroad for Indian companies and Indian subsidiaries of foreign companies across the engineering, construction, and environmental services sector. To achieve its objectives, they intend to bring together professionals from the architecture, engineering, and environmental fields, senior government officials from related ministries, as well as ambassadors, high commissioners, and other stakeholders. The main goal would be to create an action plan to ease to help Indian companies grow their exports of services. The significance of this conclave is to enhance engineering export services to diverse countries. And on that note, I, Nidhi Bansal, your MC, welcome you once again. The day is much awaited, and it gives a sense of achievement and a sense of responsibility. And we shall start the proceedings of the day with the welcome address. It is my honor to now invite the very distinguished Dr. Abhay Sinha, DG SEPC, to deliver the welcome address to this august gathering.
Good morning, everyone. In fact, this is a beginning which we definitely wanted to have started long time back, but nevertheless, it's never late. And this is being followed by a very intensive interaction which was held on 31st of August. And this particular sector, like engineering, consulting, design, architectural services, and environment were very much in the focus. And that discussion was with Commerce Secretary to understand what roadmap one could take, what are the challenges the sector is encountering in accessing global market. And with that, interaction, this being followed up as a kind of major interaction to chalk out the sector-specific strategy. Welcome again to be a part of this, and I am definitely privileged, SEPC is privileged to have the August gathering of our distinguished panelists, speakers here. And we are being, the initiative being led by Mr. Amit Sharma ji from Tata Consulting Engineers, who is our board member as well. Mr. Bhaskar Niyogi, thank you for this particular program initiative taken. And with two more associations, CAI and COA. And with this initiative, we do believe that this synergy is definitely going to be very much helpful in the initiatives, in the objectives given to us to serve this particular sector. To begin with, I do understand that many of you may not be aware of Services Export Promotion Council. I must mention that this is a council set up in 2006, relatively a younger council, and solely for the services sector. In that list of the services sector mandated to us, construction and related engineering services, architectural services, which has been identified as one of these major sector in 12 champion sectors, is also mandated to us in our role to serve the sector. And this program actually would be talking more about the market access issues, challenges, and in what way the sector requires the support from the government. SEPC in your service is basically mandated to provide trade intelligence services, market-oriented related analysis, trade information, business contact, export development, the capacity building, training, and all those things, so that it helps you to compete in the global marketplace. Export promotion and export investment, where we do carry out a number of events and activities. Of course, this sector was not very much in focus down with the pandemic also. But now when relatively the world has opened up again, we are ushering into a new slew of activities for the sector. And the last one, which is actually very important, and a lot of points should emerge when we talk about enabling business environment. This is a platform. SEPC is a platform where you associate with us, provide your inputs so that we take it up to the Ministry of Commerce or any related ministry in the foreign trade policy formulation, in any kind of regulatory framework which is required for the sector to develop and grow. Associate with us for all these range of services which we are providing. Just to take you forward, we have a portal also, and I believe this should be used by everyone. And like Trade with India, here we are trying to build up the profile. Many of you who are not the member still can log on and submit your profile. This in turn will help us to network with our embassies or any network with which SEPC is associated to give you access to the opportunities being available in any part of the world. Explore business opportunities. That's where it's another section in the portal where you can submit the detail. We are also inviting the trade inquiries being submitted by our embassies, which can be forwarded to you. You also can submit your inquiries so that we actually establish the network, the contact we can establish, the connect we can establish to unlock the potential to take up the issues and challenges and, to get the access to the marketplace. Kindly associate with us. And just to have a brief information on the activities, even if you're a member, not the member, we are having a lot of plans for future for the global market. And in fact, with the initiative taken by Mr. Amit Sharma ji, we did participate at a very short notice in Hanover exhibition, focusing on this particular sector. We will be definitely participating in a much bigger way next year. So block your diaries for the next year's dates. We'll be organizing global exhibition of services where everyone is invited to participate. We will be having more than 400 overseas business visitors. Depending on the sector also, if the sector is coming forward in a, at a larger scale. We'll have more invitees coming from the foreign country to participate and do business with you. There are 5 regions where we are going to have bilateral meet. Of course, it will be a multi-sectoral delegation, but there will be a very focused B2B meetings organized with the help of the local marketing agencies, our embassies abroad, and of course, SEPC's core competence in this particular area. With these words, I'll again plead and request, associate with us. And this is a good opportunity to talk about the, the sector, the issues and challenges. And at the end of the day, SEPC is looking forward to a strategy action plan where we all can work together, synergize our effort to live up to the image what we are trying to position as India serves. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, for your extremely insightful address. I now cordially invite our esteemed guest, Mr. Amit Sharma, Managing Director, Tata Consulting Engineers Limited, and CGC member in Design and Engineering Consulting Services Sector Head, SEPC, to say a few words, please.
Is the presentation on? Okay. Morning, everyone. Nice to be here. I have a short presentation around the context, and on behalf of the engineering, construction, environmental services, architecture fraternity, we'll go a bit on the context setting. There was a very good workshop organized on the 31st, 2 days back, chaired by the Commerce Secretary, with joint secretaries, additional secretaries, and good participation from all the sectors. We had a workshop and brainstorming session. So what came out of that in terms of learning, in terms of next steps, is what we have collated here. And we'll present a few of those findings. Can I have the presentation, please? I must also welcome all of you here. We had close to 400 registrations. And I believe this event is also being put on YouTube Live. So welcome to all the virtual attendees as well. And hopefully we'll have a good discussion and session. I'm waiting for my presentation to come. Right. So thank you very much for all of those who came on the 31st for the workshop. And I think we had some really interesting insights on the challenges, way forward. And I'll just give the context. And today, in the various panel discussions, we will ponder over them and look at the next things. Today morning I received a mail, and this data around the sector has always been a challenge. The Commerce Secretary also very humbly mentioned that on the 31st, that while we have statistics of merchandise and goods export, the export data related to services is kind of challenging. And of course, they're working with RBI and other stakeholders to get that. But overall, till 2030, the market for construction, engineering, design, environmental architecture is $57 trillion globally. Of course, a lot of this data is specific to countries' internal consumption and other requirements. But if you generically take, even today, the market is about $12 trillion with a CAGR of about 7.5%. And we are looking at our exports at about 2 billion. China dominates this, of course, because of very strong bank and funding support and a very strategic approach to global bidding. We are behind, but I think with what infrastructure we are creating in the country, it's a great foundation for us to take this to the next stage, to the global consumers, Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia, and eventually even to the developed world. If we can create this infrastructure benchmarked in terms of future sustainability, in terms of future proofing it, I think we have a great opportunity. Also, what is very important is we are amidst tremendous changes at the trends level and in terms of what engineers can play a role in this trend, whether it is green, circularity, the whole focus on electric vehicles, electrification, the whole focus on Industry 4.0, which connects the OPEX, CAPEX, old plants and the new plants. So there's tremendous opportunity. The whole energy input is being relooked into to make it more green and sustainable. Hydrogen is coming up as a great new fuel for a green future, coupled with ammonia and methanol for circularity. And amidst all of these trends, which the pandemic has accelerated at a global stage, the dynamics, the global value chains are getting realigned with the dynamics we see with Ukraine in terms of energy security for not only Europe, but for the whole world, and the supply chain rebalancing with the dynamics with China. And pandemic has actually accelerated all of this. So there is tremendous opportunities for change in terms of supply chain rebalancing, manufacturing setups, energy consumption across the globe, including India. And whatever we do in India today is actually a great template to take forward for exports. Commerce Secretary mentioned that in the next 10 years, services will grow faster pace than exports of merchandise and goods. And India, being a very service-dominant economy, directly and indirectly, 40%, 50% of engineers in best of the companies in the world, whether in construction or IT, are Indian engineers. And we should leverage this competency and strong foundation to make a mark in the world. So, apart from the macro trends, a fundamental shift is also happening where companies are getting into a pull model where the customer has the choice in terms of what the customer wants. And the customer can be plant owners, governments, private owners, and they are demanding changes because their customers also have choices. So gone are the days of push, where large capital, large capacity, you could push your products in the market. Today, the products are being driven by specific requirements that are more local, more customized, and that means companies are reinventing, reinvesting in their capabilities, and consulting, construction, architecture, environmental services have a big role to play. So some of the trends in terms of offering value and execution, we've captured here over the inputs that have come. But the key aspect of this is OPEX is another opportunity rather than only capital projects, because there is a lot of privatization on plant sustenance, plant operations outside India. The trend in India with privatization in the electricity distribution also means there are opportunity in the OPEX side of consulting and services. And also a dire need for collaboration, joint ventures to really create solutions end-to-end rather than piecemeal solutions. With the changes, what I talked about, what it eventually means that the pressure on project life cycle is even more. All of us today grapple with shorter project life cycles, shorter and lesser loans that the banks are giving for capital projects, and faster ROIs, because the recession and the boom and bust cycles are much shorter. The life cycle of the project or product is much shorter. And so the challenge on all the project players is how to do a project in less time. Of course, that means automation, digital, educating our talent, and what supports we need from the government to help us as part of this fraternity were also captured, and I'll show that in the next few slides. There are two life cycles here. One is a plant engineering life cycle. It kind of connects the CAPEX and OPEX together. And very similar to the plant engineering life cycle, which I need not talk about, everyone out here understands this, is the infrastructure project or product engineering life cycle, which is based on standards that are there in the market. And whether it's feed, concept, all the way to prototyping, all the way to construction at the site, commissioning, there are opportunities across these stages. And ideally, to maximize the value derived out of this, if you work in a consortium or a JV in international projects, you can do end-to-end projects, which are much more sustainable, value impacting. And as I mentioned, while the capital projects traditionally has been the focus of consultants in India, outside India, 70% of revenues that consultants or contractors earn comes from OPEX because of privatization in water, rail, highways, and so on and so forth. And so the opportunities in the international market are not just limited limited to capital projects, but also to the OpEx areas across all sectors. The stakeholders are different. OpEx is more challenging because you are changing the wheels of a running train as opposed to doing a capital project, which is right from start to end with defined timelines. But the opportunities together are huge in this. So what are some numbers? So addressable market is something which is addressable for Indian firms. It's not 57 trillion, that's the total market size. The addressable market can be divided into three areas: product engineering, project engineering, and plant engineering. And there are similarities in this, but they are also distinctly defined in terms of what we offer. Product engineering is more mechanical engineering driven when you define a discrete product. Project is, of course, doing construction design. And the plant engineering is running a plant or commissioning a plant, not infrastructure or building sector, but process industry. So those are the three distinct elements of this market. So product engineering, process and plant, and infrastructure project, if we do right in India, it becomes a template not only for Atmanirbhar Bharat, but also creating a strong base to catapult the services revenue in the international market. So one of the key requests that the team that was brainstorming came up, our services exports, which are knowledge-based service exports, will only happen if we do similar benchmark projects in India. And based on those learnings, that expertise is then exported into the international markets. And what does it mean if these numbers are broken down? Today, we have an addressable market about 15-20 billion split between the product, plant, and project area from a 150 billion global market. That's about 500 billion addressable market. And that's much smaller. But our services exports in this area is about 6.7 billion as per the statistics we could gather from RBI and other ministries. So there's a huge potential to more than double, and this will only increase in coming years. The second aspect of is that you can only offer services in our sector in construction, engineering, design, environmental, architecture, which is a highly intensive expertise and knowledge-based, PQ-based, case study-based. And unless you have all of that, you can't penetrate the international market competing with the best companies in the world. So there are certain basic requirements for us to also change. We need trained professionals who understand the requirement of Industry 4.0, cross-discipline working, rather than siloed working on small areas. We need strong pre-qualification criteria, and this is very important in terms of capability and execution within India for companies to earn these PQs. So we have to work with the various ministries to do the benchmark projects in India as Indian firms and make sure that these are then exported in terms of services revenue, which will be 5 to 10 times in the next 10 years. Global setup, what support we need from the industry, the government bodies to help us to set up our offices in our target countries. Of course, strong quality and safety focus. We need certifications, accreditations, which we must admit are more stringent and more professionally managed outside India and some of the countries. So if we want to operate there, we need to have our safety professionals, contract management professionals, risk management professionals, an integral part of our project setup. And of course, continuous learning and certification. The next part is in terms of opportunities that we need to address as challenges also in these areas. From an international perspective, understanding the whole funding, EXIM loan, World Trade Organization segmentation of services. During the FTA negotiations, how the categorization of services is important to make sure that proper FTAs are negotiated and part of the agreement. Offset clauses, which not only we have in India but outside, and more importantly, how we seek government help and assistance for creating strong strategic consortiums, which many of our competitors from other countries have used and leveraged to penetrate markets of Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia. On the domestic side, there has been a need of an engineer's bill, because this engineer's bill gives a strong recognition to the engineering talent in an institutionalized manner. India being at the top of engineers that we produce who work worldwide, including India, we don't have an engineer's bill. But the engineer bill also gives us chartered engineering possibility to relearn things. It gives us a base to look at what is PQ, what is an Indian firm definition, and of course, how can we do contract standardization across projects in India that helps people to innovate more on the technical engineering aspects rather than innovate on PQs and conditions of contracts and make the conditions of contracts an elimination criteria rather than a selection criteria. And so those are the areas that we must improve on, of course, certification. And policy side, it's a great thing that the government has approved QCBS, and the L1 soon shall be history in most of the areas. And QCBS means value engineering, innovation, different thinking, right expertise and competency. A lot of the standardization that the government is putting into contracts is based on the blue books, red books of the FIDIC contracts. Digital dashboards is coming to introduce transparency in the project execution, in terms of bill certification, in terms of ensuring that payments are done and structured so that the firms are not burdened in terms of putting money upfront and getting delayed payments. And of course, capability and competence building by having better education, both at undergrad, graduate, and continuous learning. So these were the other points discussed. Finally, the future areas also we as industry need to change on. Gone are the days of pure cost arbitrage. Because we are cheaper, we can do this better. It has to be driven on co-creation, co-innovation, change as a change leader to introduce new technologies when we do these projects. From detail engineering, back office, we have to do end-to-end concept to commissioning, and with IP that we need to create, whether we are in construction, environmental services, energy transition, architecture, design and engineering consulting. From a discipline engineers working on drawings, we have to shift our mindset to work on 3D models. And that 3D model basically means IP capture, reuse, as well as ability to enhance quality that comes out. Last but not the least, rather than being a subcontractor and outsourcing company, we need to look at being a company that leads BOO bases, EPCM, design build, and very strong mindset of all of us creating partnerships to go to the international country and bid end-to-end, rather than just DPRs, feasibility studies, some labor contracts. We need to have an internal understanding where SEPC, Ministry of Commerce, MEA can all assist to create a consortium strategy to then win large projects in the world, global markets. Some of the key issues that were identified by this brainstorming session, very important to hear